Hey, my name is Ben and I teach you how to write Unity shaders from scratch. In today's episode, I'm going to teach you how to do an effect where you can actually create a particle effect and put it on a specific layer or a quad like this one over here. It could be a normal map. It could also be an object like this where it's just it's a white sphere. It could also be a 3D object. So that way, now you can author your distortions by just by 3D objects. And yeah, this is a post effect. So let's jump right into it. All right, so the setup for this particular effect is not the most simplest. Let's just kind of start from here. First, we have a main camera that has our post effects controller, which is this script right here. Underneath it, as a child of it, we have a distortion camera attached to it. Now, the distortion camera is an exact copy of the main camera. Keep in mind, it's not only is an exact copy, but it's in all of the local positions are all zeroed out, so it's going to follow the main camera if the main camera were to move. Now, the distortion camera also has a depth of 0 and the main camera a depth of 1. So that means we're going to be displaying from the main camera. After this is set up, you can actually disable this camera. We don't need that anymore. I'll show you how to actually render from it in a moment. Our main camera with our post effects controller has this script. If you don't know how to set this up, I do recommend watching the post effects setup first. But as you can see, it's an on render image. All it has is a start render image where it takes the source directly. So we're blending from the source to this image, from this image back to the destination, and we're just putting it out on screen. As you can see, we are in pass number 4, which is pass number 4 here. Cool, so that is the setup. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is create a distortion image and then send it to our post effects shader. How do we do that? Well, we can actually create that from our distortion camera. So let's go ahead and set up a way for us to access our distortion camera. We'll create a new function. We'll just call it onDistort. And we'll also have a new render texture, and this will be for our distortion image. So this will be a distortion render texture. It can have the exact same settings, right? And then make sure we don't forget to release it. Then what we want to do is send it into our onDistort. So we can just do render texture here. And here what we want to do is, if our camera doesn't exist, well, get out of it. But if it does, what we want to do is we want to set the target texture. So target texture is what the camera will output to. So we set our target texture to the render texture, and then we tell the camera to render. Render. That should be it, really. Here we can call onDistort, and we'll pass in this image. What we can do is set a distortion texture on our material. So we can do set texture. We'll call it _distortion texture. Okay, and we'll send in this. Oops. And that should be it. As long as we got to make sure we are able to access this distortion texture in our shader. So let's go ahead and go to our shader. Make sure here we have sampler 2D, distortion texture, and let's output our texture to see if it works. And there are some errors. Let's take a look to see what happened. So as you can see, the distortion camera is set here, and it looks like I just have this little equal here. It's a little bit of a mistake. Cool. Looks like it is actually working. So one thing we want to do is make sure that the distortion camera is looking at the right thing. So this is the quad that we're going to be testing with. It's on the default layer. Let's set it to a new layer, which I created called the distortion layer. Okay. Now on this distortion layer, this distortion camera is going to, right now it's calling everything. I want to do nothing. I want to see nothing. And I only wanted to see the distortion layer. So now you can see it's showing up here. Next, in the main camera, I wanted to show everything but the distortion. All right, so the clear flag is set to skybox. That's why we're seeing this skybox. That's not what we want. We want a solid color. And we want our solid color to be set to a special color. It's going to be fully blue and the midpoint of green, red and green. So 128, 255. Depending on the color space, this might change, but I think this is suitable for most. So we're going to be using this distortion texture as a distorter for our main text. Whatever is showing up in this cyanish, bluish type hue will not distort at all. Only the values that are in the red and green here. So how this shader works is actually quite simple. What we need is we can put this back into main text. If we do, our distortion texture is hidden, but it's still there. It's still accessible. Okay. What we need is a float for distortion value, right? It actually can be a float 2, but we'll do float 4. So just so I can show you everything. Distortion value is equal to, we'll do a texture sample on this. And if we display it, it looks like, goes back to this image. Because this is a normal map, or treating it like a normal map, we need a times 2 minus 1. That way we have the range where we have some of the values that are negative and positive. Okay. Once we have that, we can take this and add it, the red and green channels, to our UV. And when we display our color now, it would only distort here, but nothing else here, right? So if we move this around, we're actually distorting the stuff behind it. One thing we want to add, because this distortion is very intense right now, let's add a multiplier so that we can control the distortion. Let's just do a float. Intensity, right? Intensity, there we go. Here we can do a set and float. All right, and we're going to create this in here. Distortion intensity can now just be multiplied onto this guy. Let's go back to here. It's disappeared because it's probably defaulted to 0. I just got to make sure I save this as well so I can get it to show up. Just give it a second here. Nice, it showed up. So B.1. Yeah, now you can start to see it here. Cool, and now this quad, you can kind of move it. And the whole purpose of actually doing it this way is, yes, you can have quads like this move around, or you can actually create a particle system on this distortion layer and have that work here as well, if it will play. There you go. Right, so now this particle system, it's just kind of, I'm not the best at creating particles. All it does is it kind of fades out. And as it fades out, you can also see that the distortion is fading out. So now with this system set up, you can actually have anything on the distortion layer distort the background. It could be this, it could be a 3D object, It could be this objects like this, and then you can start to rotate them and do whatever it is that you like with them without having to do too much to the shader. I mean, all the complexity is now handled by however you author your particles or your other objects. Yeah. So that is it for this particular lesson. If you guys like what you see, please like, subscribe, and support my channel. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye now.